Hey guys, how's it going? My name is James, and today I'm going to show you how I make Thanksgiving dinner. Alright, so in today's video, I'm going to show you how to cook, carve, and prepare a turkey. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do at our Thanksgiving dinner is get our turkey ready to rock. So we're going to start with a herbed butter. So we've got some butter that we've had softening for a while, about a pound of butter. Now we're not going to use all of this, but you can use it on a bunch of different things, so it's good to have. So we've got a pound of softened butter, and we're going to take some fresh herbs and kind of mix them into a glass. So we've got already some fresh oregano in there. We're going to take some thyme. Now when you break down thyme, it's literally grab it by the stem, pull it down, leave the stems. We're just going to do this with a lot of thyme. Hashtag time-lapse shot. That's what time it is. It's time for the thyme. So rosemary breakdown is the exact same thing as thyme. You literally grab it by the stem and pull down. Nailed it. All right, so now we're gonna dump out all our herbs onto the board. So we've got oregano, rosemary, fresh thyme, and fresh sage on the bottom, and the sage is still whole. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it and we're just gonna give it a very rough chop. And when I say very rough chop, I mean very fine chop. And get it as small as you can without pulverizing it. You don't wanna like smash them. So if you overdo herbs and you kind of keep chopping them and you keep smushing them and you keep smushing them, they tend to lose their flavor. They don't taste the same as if you do just a one clean cut through them. So now we're gonna take our fresh herbs and we're gonna dump it into our pound of unsalted sweet cream butter. And then we're gonna take all our leftover stems. These guys, there's still some flavor to them, but really what you're gonna get out of them is like aroma. So we're gonna take them and we're gonna actually put them inside of the bird and kind of let them hang out in there. And then as we roast the bird in the oven, they're gonna give off some flavor and some smell internally, and it's gonna slowly permeate into the meat, and it's gonna be awesome. All right, so now that we have our herbs into our butter, we're just gonna go ahead and give it a stir. And if your butter is soft enough, it will allow you to do that. I think we're there. So you don't want it to be liquid, like don't thaw it in the microwave, let it set out. Okay, so now we're good and mixed in there, and it's a very thick herbaceous butter. We're gonna rub our turkey down with it, and it's gonna be kind of odd because we're gonna do it under the skin, but that's gonna allow the skin to get nice and crispy. And then we're gonna do it actually inside of the cavity of the turkey as well, and that's gonna allow those herbs to really penetrate into the meat and give us a good, solid, clean flavor without destroying our bird. Since we're not gonna use all of our herb butter on our bird, what we're gonna do is we're gonna separate it out. So we're gonna keep the majority of it over here, and the part that we're gonna use for now, we're gonna put into a separate little jar, and that's to prevent cross-contamination, right? Anytime you're handling poultry, if you want to save something, don't put like poultry juices on it because that's how you get sick and die. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start spreading it around. Now it's kind of a weird process, but you take some butter, you throw it on your fingers, lift the skin of the turkey, and we're going to slide it in there. And as we slide it in there, we're going to push it all the way down to the fronts of the bird, and we're going to let it sit underneath there. And as we get it in there, we're going to keep as much of it as we can. Once it's in there, we're going to take it and kind of smush it around. So that way it's evenly distributed underneath the skin, and that's going to allow the flavors that we have in the herbs and the fat that we have in the butter to soak into the very lean breast meat. You hit the outside, not as much on the breast, but mostly for like the dark meat, and don't ignore the wings and the back of the bird. Like the wings are some of the best parts of the bird. It's like basically straight fat and awesomeness, and that's why they taste so good. All right, so we've got our turkey that we've rubbed down with our herb butter. We've inserted our temperature probe, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a little bit of our chicken stock and we're gonna pour it in there, and we're gonna give it about 1/4 of an inch into our roasting pan. And the reason why we're gonna do that is we don't want the fat from the butter and the bird to actually drip down into the pan and smoke, because that's not a good smoke. That's not a smoke that we want. What we want is we want that herb flavor and that butter to really penetrate into the bird and give us a good solid overall flavor. We're gonna throw this guy into the oven at 315 on a convection bake. We're not gonna worry so much about time. What we're gonna worry about is an internal temperature of 165 degrees, because that's when you've officially cook the poison out of your turkey. If you don't have a convection oven, you're really looking for 165 internal overall. Take it to 350 instead of 315, but it's gonna take the same amount of time. It's usually about 13 minutes a pound, but the most important thing is checking the internal temperature and making sure you're at 165. That's like when you know, like, hey, I can eat this turkey and not die. Okay, so we took our bird to 170 degrees. We pulled it out. We're gonna let it sit for about 15 to 20 minutes before we start carving into it. So breaking down the turkey is extraordinarily important. If you don't cut your turkey right, you'll end up with like a turkey squish. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna break it down pretty simply. We're gonna slice along the thigh, and we're just gonna pull it out. And then we're gonna do it on both sides and let it kind of air out a little bit, let the steam kind of come out of it. And then we're gonna take our wings and we're gonna separate them from the rest of the bird. They should come off pretty easy. We're gonna try and keep everything fairly symmetrical. As I'm breaking down, notice I have the wings, they're spread out symmetrically. When I break down the legs, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna let them kind of move away from the bird and let the weight of the knife do the cutting for me. And I'm gonna pull them away. Now we're gonna start to separate the thighs, right? So this is the only time that you're gonna actually have to turn this thing upside down. So you grab it kind of by the bottom of the back and flip it upside down, right? And all we're gonna do is we're gonna take our knife and we're gonna run it down the center of it. And then we're gonna flip it right back over. And then we're gonna take it, we're gonna grab it by the breast, by the hole of it, right? We're gonna kind of fork our hands over to it so it's centered and kind of physically separate that thigh from the back. And as it kind of separates, we're gonna take our knife, run it down, slowly, keep pulling, keep turning, but run that knife down again. And as you run that knife down, it's gonna slowly start to separate that from the rest of the bird. There's one part of the turkey that's better than anything else in the entire world, and it's on the back. And it's these little tiny morsels of meat that never get brought out. This is called the oyster of the turkey. John, put that in your face. We have our two thighs separated. Now we're gonna separate like the shoulder part. And all you're gonna do is you're gonna come forward in the front part of the wing and then just pull to separate. And then as it separates, you're just gonna run your knife against it, kind of work it against it, and it'll naturally come apart. And then you end up with like this drumstick type thing. Do the same thing on the other side. Next is taking the breast off the bone. Now there's one move that can make or break you with taking the breast off your bone, and that's scoring the skin. If you don't score the skin and you try and just go at it hard in the paint, it's not gonna work. So if you score the skin, and that's taking your knife from the very front of it, cutting into the bone, and then just working your knife back, cutting through the skin. So it's always a good idea, in my opinion, to take the breast off in one entire piece. You will end up with nice big chunks of bird. Even if you don't eat it, it will stay fresh for days. So we're gonna come straight down until we hit the breastbone, and then once we hit the breastbone, we're gonna come against it with the tip of our knife, and all we're gonna do is we're gonna pull the entire breast off in one solid piece. Right, so we've already taken the wings off, but now we have one solid piece of turkey breast. And then we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So we're gonna come on down on the other side of the chest bone, and we're gonna take our entire turkey breast off in one solid piece. And the other piece of the turkey breast, right? When you get done with this makes for a great stock. If you throw this into a pot with some celery, carrots, and onions, let it boil for about 2 or 3 hours, take this whole thing out, you end up with a really good stock that's gonna be good for a long time. Whenever you make a soup or a pasta, just throw the stock in there instead of water. It's phenomenal. Thank you guys for joining us today. It was fun to make some food with you. If you enjoy making this at home, go ahead and hashtag it with James Likes Beers, and keep looking out for more content. We're gonna come out with some more stuff very, very soon. So we've got our turkey that we've rolled. All right, so we've got our turkey that's been, nailed it? Nailed it. All right, so we've got our turkey. That was gonna be the good, that was the one.
That was the one.
That was the one.